Well, many people are still working from home, doing meetings online, and this trend might be for good. A recent study predicted 48% of workers will continue to work remotely even after the pandemic is over. So it's likely you'll find yourself having to give some type of presentation virtually. Joining me now with ways to add a little polish to your presentation is Snowden McFall, the president of Fired Up Professional Speaking and Coaching. And I would say, first up, that background definitely gives you a little sparkle, Snowden.
Thanks, Melanie. Happy to be here.
Thank you. What's funny about these platforms is appearance really does matter. Like people can pin your picture, they can take pictures of your call. It's a little creepy, but there are some ways that we can all look better in these presentations.
Absolutely. One of the things you want to do is make sure that your camera is eye level. We've all seen people on Zoom calls who you're seeing their nose hairs, they're leaning back like this, it looks like, and that's because their camera is low. I recommend to my coaching clients that they stand up and they actually elevate their laptop either with a stand-up desk or just a bunch of books, and they look directly eye level. And the other reason for that is because when you're sitting down, you're caved in and you don't have the breath and the vocal variety and the ability to address your audience effectively.
Yeah, and that's a good point because when we do presentations in person, usually you are standing, and there's a reason for that. So
That's
what
right.
is a laptop fan? You sent a picture, so I'd like to put that up.
A laptop fan is a way to organize your data so that whatever you're going to say, your content, you're not looking down at notes. You've got little sticky pads all around the computer, and you can easily reference those when you want to speak. It's a very easy way, and I learned this from Juliet Funt, another National Speakers Association coach, and I love it. I think it's a terrific idea, and so it's just an easy way for you to do that. You don't ever want to try and memorize your content, because if you lose your place, you're in big trouble, and this just helps you stay on track. Several of my clients say to me, "Oh, I lose my place." Well, this is the way you avoid that.
Right. And I liked it because if we could pull it up real quick one more time, it wasn't necessarily the presentation on those little sticky notes. It was advice like Facebook Live, ideal client engaged, shift nerves to excitement. So it's just little things to keep you smiling even. So
Exactly.
so here's another one for you. How do you engage your audience when everyone is on mute? So you really don't get that feedback that you would get in person.
And as a professional speaker, that's hard for me too. And it's a tricky thing, but there are lots of ways to engage your audience. Obviously, the easy way is to chat room, and you can have people do thumbs up, and there's a thumbs up function on Zoom. You can also ask them questions and ask them in the chat box to answer. You could say, like, on a 1, 2, 3, and you give them options. Is it 1, you're here because you want to learn, you want to educate? Number 2, 3, because you want to sell something, and you have them put the number in. I've seen all sorts of things on Zoom meetings and Teams meetings where people will actually have dance breaks if it's a long conference, which is a lot of fun. You get people physically involved. I was on one call last week where they had you wear hats, and people talked about their funny hats as an icebreaker. You can use Zoom polls. You can ask questions and have people respond to each other's questions. You can ask people to write things down. The key is to get people involved every 10 minutes if you're doing an hour-long call, because they'll be so distracted.
Yeah, that's good advice every 10 minutes. Last question for you. I'm taking a class at UNF, and some of the presentations have been just kind of like a little boring. There's a way to make those PowerPoint presentations a little more jazzy. There's so much you can inject into those presentations.
Yes, well, the first thing is don't rely on your PowerPoint, because PowerPoint is a tool, and we've all heard the phrase death by PowerPoint, and you don't want to do that. You want to have a dark background, maybe 4 or 5 bullets max in 36-point type with white or yellow type, and you want pictures. I mean, really, PowerPoint is an accent. So, funny pictures that illustrate your key point, that illustrate your stories, and you should always be using stories when you're speaking. And you want to make sure that you get the maximum bang for your buck in terms of giving value by you being the one who addresses the audience, not droning on in a monotone on PowerPoint.
Yeah, good advice, Snowden. Those are some simple things that you can do to certainly make it more engaging. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.